this session dedicated to a hot topic, how data and EA could contribute to achieve SDG 13 and to accelerate climate action. Next slide, if you can, Viviane, please. Thank you. We will think and discuss together on this matter during the next hour. Thanks to a panel of speakers, if you can go to the next slide, perfect, who deal with data and climate action on an everyday basis through their job. So Gabriela and Lindsey, I will present you with more detail a little bit later. And also thanks to the contribution of Capgemini experts who will enlighten us on tools and methodology in order to accelerate. Before going any further, I take maybe 10 seconds to introduce myself. I'm Maëlle Bouvier. I am a director at Capgemini Invent in France. So bonjour from Paris. I'm part of the team here in France who leads sustainability topics and offers for our clients. And I'm very pleased to be here today with you. Without any transition and before introducing the panel in more detail, I would like to start by sharing some thoughts and data on why our topic of the day is important. So maybe you know it, maybe you don't. The Capgemini Research Institute published 1 year ago a data-powered enterprise survey. Around 500 technology executives did answer. And so we did learn from them that all across the world, around 40% of the executives did draft policies for conserving energy during data storage. The same percentage, more or less, does also evaluate and audit data vendor partners for their commitment to sustainability. So that's pretty good news. But obviously, it's not enough yet. So in the next slide, you can see that the good news is that a large majority of the respondents are prepared to invest heavily in data ecosystem in the short term, within the next 2 or 3 years, up to $50 million for 1 in 4 organizations. So that's a lot. And more than the half of the organization declared that sustainability will be a use case of this future data ecosystem. So that's pretty great. Of course, right now, we do identify some ongoing interesting initiatives around the world. It's the next slide with the map. Viviane, I don't know if we have it. No. It disappeared, but that's okay, don't worry. So maybe you all have in mind some initiatives such as the Waze application, maybe, which allows via the sharing of driver data to share real-time road conditions. And so we all know, of course, that smarter and shorter driving leads to lower CO2 emission. But we could also talk about other initiatives such as the intelligent and sustainable clothing washing developed by Cosmoplat company and the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany. I don't know if you know about this initiative, but through sensors within washing machines, laundry data can be collected, which enables companies to offer their consumers a better utilization of washing machines with additional services. And we did collect through our study within Capgemini more initiatives around the world. We will share with you at the end of the session some publication if you want to read more about that. So that's all I wanted to say in order to introduce the topic based on this information. And before engaging the talk with the panel, it would be great if we could capture your opinion and if you could answer a quick question. I guess you can see it in the slides. So what are fields of SDG 13 where you think better data sharing can help achieve the goal. Would be great to have your opinion on it, as we did in the plenary. If you can scan the QR code or go to Menti by using the code, you can answer this question. For the 4 answers, we ask you to place a cursor according to whether these are high potential areas or not. That's the rule for this question. And of course, we will share the results thanks to Viviane. So do not hesitate to contribute. We have around 30 participants in this breakout session. So maybe we'll have around 30 answers, hopefully. We can see that governmental aspects, but also awareness maybe seems for you a little bit more important than prevention of natural catastrophes and the involvement of companies. Maybe we will debate that a little bit with our panel. Okay, well, sounds great. Well, companies action, government action, awareness are for you the 3 main levers we need to activate in order to accelerate. We'll keep it in mind when we talk with the panel. So now that's the moment I would like to introduce our fantastic panel to discuss about inspiring stories, good practices, but also maybe challenges when it comes to the use of data and to the creation of data ecosystem to reduce climate impact. If you have questions for Lindsey and Gabriela during the session, please do not hesitate, use the chat. So Gabriela, Prata Diaz, hello Gabriela, has several years of experience in the field of energy efficiency, and she is now based in Denmark, and she is the head of the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. Lindsey, darling, is based in the UK. She joined Shell International in 1997, and since then, she has served in various technical, operational, and commercial roles across the organization. She is now Shell's General Manager for Supply Chain Sustainability. So hello, Gabriela, and hello, Lindsey. How are you today? Thank you for being there.
Thanks to you, Maëlle. Nice to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you very much for making us feel so welcome as well.
Yeah.
Nice to hear. So maybe a first round of questions for you, and maybe we can start with you, Lindsey. I'm sure our audience might want to know, what are you doing regarding our topic and why are you doing it? And that's true that it may seem a little bit surprising for an oil company such as Shell to invest in such a topic. So maybe you can tell us a bit more about Shell commitment and action.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, society is changing and accelerating to cleaner energy futures, and quite rightly, Shell is changing too. Our target to become a net zero emissions energy business by 2050 in step with society is really at the heart of our energy transition strategy. It means continuing to reduce our total absolute emissions to net zero by 2050. Now, our targets cover a range of emissions, so that is scopes 1, 2, and 3 of all the energy we sell, not just the energy we produce. And at the end of October, we announced an absolute emissions reduction target of 50% on scope 1 and 2 emissions under our operational control by 2030. To reach these targets, we need to help address the scope 3 emissions as well. And that's from the use of our products. And this is the center of our Powering Progress strategy to work with our customers, our suppliers, and others to help decarbonize. And this will be done sector by sector. And it uses the relationships we have, the knowledge we have, and the expertise. We've recently announced plans in Europe for Europe's biggest biofuels facility. We've started up an electrolyzer to produce green hydrogen. And then we've got large-scale carbon capture and storage plans. We've also got an energy transition campus in Amsterdam, which works with startups, academia, companies, and all working together on that cleaner energy. And you asked why, right? You asked why. That's what we've committed to do. But we can't do that without one thing, and that is change on that broader scale. An unprecedented collaboration between industry, consumers, crucially governments as well. And so we're committed to be part of that conversation, part of the solution, part of these data ecosystems that are going to unlock this. And therefore, we're all part of that energy transition. So for Shell, it isn't an unusual thing to be involved in. It's actually at the heart of what we're doing and how our company is moving.
Great, thank you for these first words. And of course, we'll be able to go more into details in a few minutes. So Gabriela, you have the floor now. Maybe can you explain to us what the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency is doing when it comes to using data to fight against climate change? If I correctly understood from our previous chat when we did prepare this session, your action focuses on emerging and developing countries. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. And thanks a lot again for having me here today. It's a great pleasure to always to collaborate with Capgemini and ITU. With ITU, we have a couple of things on data and tools going on. So it's really a good feeling to be here today. So at the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency, we mostly dedicate our every day to the demand side, while Lindsey is more, I would say, probably on the supply side of energy. We focus our activity on the demand side. So we actually work with developing countries and emerging economies, and we are UNEP, UN Environment Collaborating Center, so helping out to deploy energy efficiency in developing countries and emerging economies. And we do that at national level and also at municipal level. So we focus on helping out how can countries deploy policy and also municipalities, how they can implement concrete projects on the ground. So we work on both sides, and we do that actually working with data. And we actually produce a lot of material, reports, information pieces, etc. But we also develop tools that would help national governments or local governments to adopt energy efficiency practices more faster, I would say. So just a quick note on energy efficiency. It's probably the elephant in the room in the climate space. It's actually, according to the International Energy Agency, it could represent, if good policies are put in practice all over the world, it could represent about 40% of the Paris Agreement, which is quite a significant volume of emissions that could be abated and removed if we actually are serious about energy efficiency. And so with the focus on that, the main areas, going now into more detail, the main areas where we focus on is when we are talking with municipalities in the developing world, is actually looking into, for example, street lighting that they have on their own territories, their public buildings, for example, how they insulate, ventilate, heat, and cool these buildings. Are there the sustainable solutions being put in place? Other examples around mobility, how is mobility being deployed, and are there the efficient choices being made and the efficient policies being implemented? Another thing which is a bit probably more popular in the Northern European countries, which is district energy solutions for heating or cooling urban areas. This is an area where we have quite a bit of expertise, and we are deploying the Nordic knowledge around the world. So we do that basically trying not only to inform, and I was very glad to see this poll that you just put us before the panel on what was important to the different people attending this session. It's really great to see, because it's actually our feeling that all these things are important. It's policy, it's awareness raising, it's technology, of course, it's the involvement of the private sector. So all these things we try to work out, and when we develop our tools to make I would say probably the lives of our counterparts in developing countries easier, is to make them user-friendly tools for them to produce and use their data, which very often we enter into a situation where they just tell us that we actually want to do something, but we don't know where to start. And it's actually data where they should start collecting the right data and looking into that. So
yeah.
I'll stop here. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk about the key success and good practices to be sure we are on the good path. You mentioned several illustrations on what the center is doing. Could you maybe a little bit elaborate, maybe one or two concrete examples for maybe national or local governments? Could be great for the audience if you could elaborate.
Yeah, I can probably give two examples. The first one at a national level, we are working with the Kenyan Ministry of Energy, and at that level, we have been over the last year or so supporting them to develop their energy efficiency implementation strategy. So now Kenya has a strategy to target energy efficiency. So, and for that, we needed to help them to collect relevant information about buildings, about industry, about transportation, so that they can actually act, because you can only act when you actually know where your problem is, so you understand your reality. And we made that journey together with the Kenyan government, and now they actually have launched at the COP an implementation plan for this strategy. So this is one example. At the local level, I could give another example, which is something we have developed together with a group of municipalities in Argentina, where they actually addressed us and said, help us, please help us to address energy efficiency. What can we do in our space? And actually what happened was we started with the most simple type of project. Sorry, there's a ferry coming out of the harbor in Copenhagen now. What we actually did was helping 40 municipalities to collect the right data on their street lighting. So how many lamps posts they had, what type of lamps they have installed, how many hours they were on every day, and other information around maintenance, etc. So we help them to collect that data with the proper tool and proper calculation methods if they would improve to most efficient technology solutions. And actually it turned out to be a great project, because they actually moved into implementation. They found a way, a quite innovative business model, also something that Barbara from OECD mentioned about the business model creation that also allows. And they managed to gain economies of scale. They got together, these municipalities, they managed to deal or interact with the suppliers in public tenders on get the best prices for the replacement of their street lighting in these municipalities. And now they are actually using the same model to replicate to other products. So now they are buying solar collectors, for example, and the water meters and the electric vehicles. So all sorts of technologies they are using to replicate the success story that has started with street lighting. So these are a couple of examples, concrete examples that we are actually delivering on.
Yeah, that was very interesting, and that's great to see how replicable a solution could be, and it's about efficiency. So that's great to hear. Lindsey, do you have also in mind a specific project or tool or topic that you lead, which concretely allows to accelerate on this topic when it comes to data ecosystem and data collaboration to fight against climate change?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said in my intro, more than 90% of Shell's emissions sit within that scope 3, which is emissions from the use of the fuels and other energy products that Shell sells and buys from suppliers. As we started to move forward in this energy transition and Shell to be a key enabler in this energy transition, we saw an opportunity to develop a platform to ease the reporting of those supply chain emissions data and collaborate a little bit more closely with the suppliers on solutions to actually lower those emissions. The Shell Energy Transition Hub, as we call it, is a unique digital platform. It's developed free of charge and it's open for all companies to use. We've aimed for, as Gabriela was saying, user-friendly interfaces, and it allows the companies to come in, baseline their emissions, deepen their understanding of their own emissions footprint, and set progressive emission ambitions based on that data that they have. Looking at low carbon pathways, benchmarking their status against other users. You can look at it in a sectorial basis, so you can actually just see where you sit compared to other people in your own industry areas. It works on the premise of collating the corporate emissions data provided by that user, and then it maps out those pathways to go for an ambition that they have set. So it's also within a designated time frame, so it's very adaptable to changing conditions. It uses the industry standards for greenhouse gas reporting as well. And it provides that user with, probably the best phrase is a one-stop shop for all that emission reporting. They can invite their own suppliers, their own customers into the platform as well. And then they can collaborate and exchange that emissions data. To be fair, it eliminates the need for these multiple reporting systems, and it gives a real insight straight away to the end-to-end supply chain emissions. That's why we believe that it's going to help accelerate the reduction of the carbon emissions across the globe and across all of those supply chains. Yes, it will provide insight. It will help people set realistic ambitions. And it will allow for that best practice sharing that Gabriela was also talking about in hers. You know, we need to learn from each other. We need to understand what we can do, what is out there to help also, you know, go for low carbon solutions to things for all different parts of the industry. This includes all those hard to abate sectors as well. I mean, we heard one in the background there with marine, Gabriela. You know, it's all of those things that go far beyond the usual kind of carbon offsetting. This is a really tangible way to reduce the footprint here. We launched it in April 2021, so it's relatively new. In fact, it is very new, but it's continuously expanding, and it's one of those things we're doing slightly more in a dynamic way than perhaps you would look at from a traditional industry. So again, it's using all of the information, the data that we've got. It's in collaboration with some NGOs. It's got its existing users in there. We obviously use it ourselves as a corporate. And then as the user base increases, we get a better understanding of our scope 3 footprint, and also we help everybody else with their energy transition. It really is got a foundation of that collaboration, data sharing. So for us, although it's new, it's something that we're absolutely passionate about continuing for the future.
We can hear that. Yeah. And so if we go further, well, maybe I might have the same question for both of you regarding your specific journey. So Lindsey maybe more with private sector, and Gabriela more with the public one, maybe. What are the main challenges you are facing regarding using data collaboration to tackle SDG 13? I heard a lot about the collaborative skills and the dynamic needed to concretize your initiatives. So maybe that's the challenge. Maybe you identify others. Lindsey, if you want to go first, you have the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Pierre Adrian said in the plenary, it's not all been plain sailing. There are some challenges here. One of the really simple ones is making it relevant to all users. I mean, we are looking globally. So there's a size piece, there's geography, there's language. even units of measure, very simple things actually are quite hard when you're trying to look at things on a global footprint as well. Also people's knowledge, you've got different people filling in, you've got different levels of knowledge. Do you know your carbon footprint? Do you know what your emissions data is? And so that's why we've set it up with two different sort of approaches. One is I know my stuff and I just need help with a few things and I want to collaborate. And the other one is I actually am going to be taught doing this, and it's a real learning journey. Translating the GHG protocols as well into a digital, accessible, scalable platform has not been easy. I've got a fantastic team working on it, and they've been living and breathing this for some time. And then one that was raised already in the plenary, it's sharing data on a supply chain. There's obviously, I mean, you sort of broached it very, very diplomatically at the beginning. There's obviously that skepticism around, sharing data, oil companies and everything internally, externally. And that building trust piece is incredibly important. So we spend a lot of time making sure that we are absolutely open and transparent with our partners in it. This is an issue that needs society and business as a whole to solve collaboratively. So we must break down those barriers. I think the one play also mentioned previously is it's an emerging area of data exchange. So things are being sort of learnt as we go. We obviously use historical data. We do hope in the future, as data standards become a little bit more defined, we can use real-time data, because then that would add that extra element to this. But yeah, that sharing and leveraging data has had hurdles. But if it was very simple to solve, we would have done it all many years ago, right? So.
Of course. Yes. And so, Gabriela, do you face the same challenges, maybe others?
No, of course. I mean, I would say, yeah, exactly the same as Lindsey. I mean, it's actually I would share every word that she has mentioned. Just trying to bring added value here to the discussion. Now, I'm thinking. I mean, apart from the knowing exactly what data you should collect and to understand exactly your realities, to be able to do something about it is accompanied or followed closely by a lack of capacity that we see in many countries around the world. So there is also an effort there to move things in parallel. And then I would like to raise another opportunities around technology. So we are seeing now a huge opportunity with new technologies around digitization and digitalization coming up, and this could provide a huge service to cities, communities, private sector, governments, etc. And just to give a few examples, in the energy efficiency space, we are very much now starting to look into, for example, building management systems. How can the introduction of these solutions, like it's based on sensors, data collection, data management, analyzing big data and implementing it at city level on the public buildings, what there could be a huge impact of utilizing these technologies and these solutions. And I mentioned before street lighting. So if we are thinking about smart city concepts, then we also can use street lighting for this infrastructure to add on these solutions and these opportunities to also not only just to make cities more intelligent or smarter per se, but also to bring added value to act on climate change and reduce energy demand and be able to reduce the carbon footprint that has been mentioned, and many other things around smart appliances. You yourself, you mentioned smart appliances and also in the introductory note. Electrification of energy uses, if we are moving from fossil fuel based internal combustion engines for transportation into electrifications with vehicles being connected to homes and homes delivering into vehicle delivering into homes and to the grid and all these connections. I mean, there's a universe of opportunities there to tackle climate change there, but we also need to be careful, because there's also the other side of the coin, which is all this data collection, data storage also needs energy. So we need to be also aware of that, and doing it the best way possible. So something we are, by the way, also looking into. So yeah, just to have to give a glimpse of the idea of this type of issues that we are looking at.
Yeah, green IT, yeah, of course, it is key, and we need to dig into it. I don't know if attendees have some question for the panel. You have a chat open. There is one question for Clara. How is the tool called they are talking about now? So I'm not sure to understand the question, but I don't know, Gabriela and Lindsey, if you do have some public resources, maybe you could share in the chat the link to what you can. Public resources we could share with participants. Also, Eric wrote a comment. Hi, folks. Thanks a lot for this. I find that most of the talk about climate is on net zero, but to my reading, goal 13 is really about climate adaptation rather than emissions reduction. I'd love to hear how people in the room are working with data ecosystem in the adaptation space. I'm not sure, Lindsey and Gabriela, your angle include adaptation topic. I might, and I do understand that you chose to focus on, well, carbon reduction because at this moment it's maybe it's a question of choice, of course. So do you have anything to say about climate adaptation or not?
I mean, I can just say, if you look at Shell's Powering Progress strategy, then obviously we look at things as a whole. So we do look around the net zero emissions, we look at respecting nature, we look at powering lives. And so obviously this isn't, it isn't a one area of focus. We do have action plans and everything for all of those. Now, obviously, when you're talking about adaptation, you're talking about when we're getting to the point that you know, we've already got emission, we've already got to a point where actually we're having to adapt to what is going on now. Now, obviously, as in all of our lives, we adapt to the current situation. So as we're working our strategies, and as we're working all of our you know, placements within each countries, within each region, we do work within the boundaries of what is there. Ideally, what we're aiming for is that net zero, so that we can actually impact it at a great level rather than having to do adaptation. But we do, if you want to go in, I can put a little link in there to our Powering Progress strategy, and you can see the work that we're doing on sustainability as a broader piece around people, nature, and net zero. I don't know if that really helps. I mean, obviously we are we're focusing here today on the net zero ambitions, but looking wider, there you know, we can also put some resources into your chats and everything for afterwards.
Yeah, would be great. Maybe one last question before handing the floor to Mukesh, because we are running out of time, because we do have another step about toolbox. Lindsey, if you can answer quickly about the governance of your platform. Frederick had a question.
I can't
who
see
is
the
looking
chat,
at the governance?
so
yeah, of course. Yeah. Who is looking at the governance of that to make sure that the reporting is correct in the platform?
So actually within the platform, as I said, we use the industry standards on the greenhouse gases. And obviously, as you can imagine, with any corporate, we are very hot on our data. We're very hot on our emissions piece. We do rely on people to report their own emissions in there. So some people putting the emissions in do actually have certified emissions data. Some people are putting in the usage of what they've got, and then it's calculating using those greenhouse gas protocols. As I can't see quite the chat, I'm just hoping that answers the question.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I would like to say a huge thank you to both of you, Lindsey and Gabriela. Of course, stay with us. I can see other questions in the chat. Maybe we'll have time at the end to come back to that question later. But now, if it's possible, I suggest that we move and take the time to share concrete tools and method, other tools and method, thanks to Capgemini experts. So Mukesh, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Can you
Hello?
introduce yourself? Yes, we do hear you. Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Mukesh Jain, Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at Capgemini. 26 years in the industry. Most of my time was working for Microsoft in US. One thing I've learned over a period of time, the ease of use on the technology side, the ease of use makes a whole difference. That's what I learned at Microsoft. At Capgemini, we created a tool called 890. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, which actually helps enable organization to get more power with data. Now you might ask this question, why 890? Okay, we can go to the next slide. Yeah, look at the number 890. 890 degree. Infinite. You get an infinite symbol. Infinite opportunities with data. This is something we realize at Capgemini. How can we empower people with more and more data? So this product envisioned and built within Capgemini, enabling organization, the things which we talk, which Lindsey called out very well, data exchange. Yes, we do look at historical data, but what if we can use real-time data? That's where the value is. Real-time data, I should be able to make decision on real-time data. The data exchange part, taking data in real time from external system, from internal system, taking decision, and even for that matter, sharing data in real time with other systems. That's what the data exchange part is. So as you can see, I know it's a complex slide, but this completes the whole tooling part of it. We have done this for multiple clients in the sustainability area. We have done it for other areas as well. So if you look at it, the combination of data exchange, insights exchange, and outcome exchange. Coming to the climate action, if you see, the outcome is the interesting part. Outcome could be net zero, outcome could be compliance, and several other areas. Now, if I want to work backwards, which means I want data at the fingertips. But more than the data, I want insights at the fingertips. Data in the raw format is good, but yeah, what do I do with that? Some kind of insight. It could be Power BI, it could be Tableau, so that when I'm thinking about it, when I'm taking an action, should I give business to this particular entity or that entity? By the way, this entity is more carbon responsible. Let me take that decision to give this entity, even though my cost is slightly higher, but these are more responsible people. But how do I get all those parts? The insights part of it. So the whole ecosystem of data lies around people who can share data, data exchange, insights exchange, and outcome action, so that I can make my supplier responsible. I can make my clients responsible, and so on. And then this can spread so that everybody become more responsible. And coming back to the data, as I mentioned in the beginning, data at fingertips. See, in my 26 years, I've always seen data in a simple Excel format. And we all know data doesn't come in Excel format in real time. Data could be coming from API, data could be in your database, data could be in a data lake, IoT sensors, each one of them. Now, when the data is coming, right, the kind of engineering work required and everything, it's too much. And the effort, everything is too much. So the business users who want to use data, who want to be responsible, become challenging for them. So if you look at the top line, which is about business users, so for them, how do I make it easier? And next, but not the least, the data scientist. If we continue to do this, how much impact it will have? For example, I made it a point last 4 years. If the distance is less than 2 kilometers, I don't drive. I don't take the vehicle. I walk. Now, how much impact I'm making because of that? I always had a question in my mind. But once I developed the app, once I started using 890, I was able to know that yes, I'm making at least this much contribution. And then we came up with some program in Capgemini called Million Hours. How can each one of us contribute there? Okay, how many walk we have done? It's not just walking just for the stroll part of it, but you are actually preventing some usage of carbon and all. This is just one example, but there are lots of other places, lots of other things which help us to become more sustainable. Now, if you look at some of the tools part of it, include Data Studio. Just 1 second on the previous slide. So the Data Studio part, if you see, what does that really mean? So it's not just having the ability to do tooling, right? It's about my internal data, married with the external data, and trying to find out what is the optimum route, what is the optimum thing which I can do, which will save. Recently, there was a competition, hackathon at AWS, where we were able to show that while you are ordering something next day, you're actually making more damage to the environment than when you're doing it, ordering, after 2 days or 3 days. It's the impact, right? And we won one of the prizes we won at AWS because we were able to show that when you're ordering it, it's okay to order a couple of days later, which has compared to less carbon impact than you're ordering something next day or next 3 hours. Now, Analytics Studio, same thing will happen there, right? Getting the data, getting the insights which you want to share, and making it easier. The MLOps part of it. I don't want to go full technical here, but I just want to say that operationalizing any of this dashboard and making it real time and using it, only 13%, 13% of the organization have able to do it. Capgemini research report talks about it detail about how data ecosystem, how data masters are becoming a challenge for organization and what they can do to achieve those part of it. Next slide. Now, if I look at it, the sustainability part. So what we did is we have partnered with AWS also. And if you search on AWS, I have done a webinar also a few weeks back, which talks about how organization can move forward on this. So if you look at the challenges, people don't have time to build something, right? They want to do something faster. Data deprivation, this is the biggest one. We talked about it today on the panel as well. Data is available in bits and pieces. In one of the slides, I'll share you how much data is already available. Huge, by the way. And the accountability. Is this correct? When I'm showing something, do you have the confidence that whatever I'm reporting is correct or not? So some of the things which we were able to do in the tools was, how can I fast track the journey to use AI? So if something is ready to use, always works. And of course, building that confidence and the competitive edge that yes, I have the trusted data. The word trust is more important. If you have data which is trusted, if you have insight which is trusted, yes, people will trust you, the organization will be trusted. And of course, looking at the current situation and tracking the growth. All of those combination makes this tool 890 tool, which we have already deployed at multiple client locations across the globe. Next slide, please. Now, when we talk about data, these are the real data which is already available. This is just a small exercise when we did 200 plus data sources, we already found it. There is a team who is already looking at it. And when I'm looking at this, I'm actually getting more and more fresh graduates engaged. Some of the colleges, university engaged. I did a hackathon at one of the university recently. 54 ideas I got, out of which 12 ideas were wow. I sponsored those projects at the colleges now. So now we were able to build some solution out of them. And some of these fresh graduates, they have a lot more ideas to do this part. And all you need is data. Data is available. And all this data, even though some of the data are old, I'm able to use it through 890 and make it available as the API. So your choice, you can go call it in Power BI, you can call it anywhere else, and you can build and massage the data as you want. And if you're connecting to the API, you'll get real-time data as well. So biodiversity, energy consumption, waste, natural resources, pretty much in each of the area. Next slide. Now, some of the solution. This is work of about 3.5 months, where I've started leading this at Capgemini. So now if you the product was there, 890 product was there, but then I thought, can I make this available on 890, the sustainability part of it? Carbon emission dashboard, we successfully delivered for a client, predictive maintenance, and most important part, we were able to do it is on the farm 2.0. What that means, for some of the farms, we were able to take images through drones and then find out what is the quality of the farm and then make some suggestions so that there's less wastage and we can get more and better crop. And earthquake prediction. We were shortlisted. We are in the finals now. Earthquake prediction. We were able to look at the data and then predict. Of course, some of them you might say, oh, that is not really related to climate. It is in some sense. So when I look at it sustainability, I look at it a comprehensive view. And these are some of the things all using the data. So you can imagine the earthquake prediction with the data which is available and with the accuracy which is very, very close to real, of course, right? Those things are there. Next slide. So in summary, what I wanted to share here was the opportunity is available, data is available, just getting the combination of the opportunities, the ideas, what you have, what can be done, and make sure it is at the fingertips available for people to change their action, to influence by the insight they get, and automatically it will affect their outcome as well. With that, I will pause here and I'm happy to take some questions.
Thank you so much for sharing, Mukesh. Maybe I will start with the question. I have one for you, and of course, Lindsey, Gabriela, and others around the table. If you do have a question for Mukesh, please jump and ask it in the chat, preferably. So once somebody develops an insight or a dashboard on sustainability, Mukesh, how easy it would be to deploy it on 890 and make it available for others to use it?
Sure. If you can go back to the 890 slide. So what we have done is, as I mentioned, right, the important part was how easy it is, right? I cannot be calling the IT team all the time. I cannot be asking the developers to work on this every time. So what we have done in the tooling, we made it very, very simpler. So today, if I want, I take data from 3 different sources, write a simple query, blend the data, everything on 890, very, very simple, connect it with Power BI, create a dashboard, press a button and deploy on 890. I, as a user, because I have developed it, I have access to that. I can say, you know what, Lindsey should have access, Gabriela should have access, these are the 7 other people who need to have access. I can do all of those and press a button, and only those people will have access. Again, security is there. Or I can say, you know what, anybody and everybody in the world can have access to this. All they need is a link. Then I'll go to my LinkedIn and I'll publish that link so that people can come and view these dashboards. This is how simple the tool makes it happen. Because for adoption, right, the important part is, first is discoverability. Do you know that exists? And once it exists, how can you build it? So when we did this for, so far we have done it for multiple clients. When we did this for a client, and one of the things which the CIO told us is, okay, this has helped us increase adoption. And with the CDO dashboard, what we have, they can see how many people are able to actually use this tool and then use the data. So that's how it is. So yes, it's possible to do it. And we are able to do this for multiple clients.
Good to know. I don't know, Lindsey or Gabriela, if you have any first thought or maybe questions for Mukesh regarding this tool or not. Huh? It's up to you. No worries.
I don't have a question. I've just, it's really, interesting to see also the huge progress that can be made when you collaborate with non-traditional people, doing hackathons and everything else like this. It's for me, it's just a positive message to see that everybody is getting involved. But no question. I don't know, Gabriela?
Yeah, thanks, Lindsey. Yeah, I'm just curious to know what exactly is inside sustainable financing. Something that's critical from our experience, and yeah, would be interesting to know what.
Sure. So what we have done is, I'm sure some of you may be aware of the ESG part of it. So we are doing this for some of this, the financial institute. They're supposed to do reporting on ESG, and they're able to do those. And when they're making decisions, should we invest in this company or that company, they use ESG as a starting point for doing this. So the governance, sustainability, all of those come into this picture. So we have done that already.
Thank you, Mukesh, for the answering. So if I come back to the chat, we do have 2 questions for the panel, and I guess there are questions for Lindsey. If you have any question for Gabriela regarding action with local and central government, feel free. We do have some minutes left. So Lindsey, any actions to tackle methane emission in your journey? Do you take into account methane?
Yeah, sorry, I can't see all of the chat with the new commitments. Now, obviously, at the moment where we're looking at with our energy transition hub is based at the moment on the net zero emissions and the carbon piece here, but there is absolutely a drive to make sure that we looks at sustainability as a whole. So I think in this one, it's a watch this space.
Gabriela, I don't know if Copenhagen Center take into account also methane challenges.
Well, not really us directly, but as a collaborating center of UNEP, actually UNEP has a unit on methane. But I wouldn't like to comment on that. I would like to, if possible, to go back to this adaptation question.
Of course.
Yeah. So Well, actually, SDG 13 covers both mitigation and adaptation. So of course, the part I'm mostly involved in is on mitigation. But I would just like to make a note here is that energy efficiency, like renewable energies, the optimal way to implement them is also to interconnect with adaptation solutions. And that's what we are looking at when we are dealing with energy efficiency in buildings, for example. So the adoption of green roofs, green facades, tree canopies in front of big building blocks. So actually we are using these tools as well as to introduce cooling in cities. I mean, heating in cities is going to be a bigger problem as we go by, and actually adaptation solutions in cities is something that we are looking at and working with to integrate with the energy efficiency solutions. So we don't just look into active systems, but also on the passive systems of introducing efficiency and reducing emissions. That's the main purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. Another question for you, Lindsey. I read it because you can see the chat. So the indicators for measuring the footprint or actual emissions differ between industries. We do know that. Are you working with a specific indicator set? So is there a common way to look at sector 3 partners? Which data are you looking at?
Okay, I'm hoping that I understand the question there. For sector 3, I'm thinking maybe, yeah.
Maybe it's scope 3.
So basically, our hub uses the industry standard, the greenhouse gas protocol pieces. So what we can do is we have got the information in there, and you can look at other sectors. So you can say you're a certain type of company, you're a certain type of industry, and then you can actually look across those industries and see where you position yourselves. Therefore, you know, that's the whole point of setting realistic ambitions. And then, as we discussed before, it's those really hard to abate sectors that you can also then compare and see how you're doing if you're one of those. I'm hoping that answers it, because I've got a bit confused with the sector 3, but I'm thinking it's maybe the scope 3 emissions, but hopefully that's enough. If not, you know, although I can't see the chat, we can always do some follow-up messages and answering questions later. I have no problems with that.
Clara, can you confirm us that we did answer your question in the chat, please? Thank you. And maybe a final question, because we have 5 minutes left and a new Menti survey for the audience. So Lindsey and Gabriela, before going to the survey, what would be your main advice, guidance, you would like to share with the audience, with the organization who would like to jump on that topic and build concrete initiatives when it comes to data ecosystem to fight against climate change? If you do have one advice. Lindsey?
Yeah, I can go first.
Ahead.
I think the biggest thing is collaborate with your non-traditional partners, because that is what's going to unlock this. So go for it, and you know, be open, be part of the conversation, be part of the solution. I mean, that's I think that's the only way. Accelerate it by putting the groundswell behind it, putting the passion behind it, and just keep asking the questions. Okay? I think that's just it's very simple summary, but that's what it is for me. Gabriela?
Sure, yeah, collaboration is for sure something definitely to be done, but also capacity building of actually people dealing with the topics and the different topics. Just, I mean, there's a huge amount of information available for free in the internet. So just go to relevant resources and try to learn as much as you can and use the tools that are available for free. It's a huge amount of tools.
Thank you for this last advice.